To introduce Mr. Adrian Ng. Adrian is Chief Executive Officer of Hope Worldwide Singapore. It's a charity, it's an institute of public character in Singapore that essentially does a range of community services for children, youths, and older people. Right? One of their many programs is this Silvers program, and another one is this Home Refresh program, both of which involves older people. Right? In fact, this Saturday when we go for our site visit, as I have announced, we would be involved in this program called the Home Refresh program, in which we would, in our groups of 6 or 4 or 5, clean the hard-to-reach areas of an older person's house. Right? And this older person is usually a stay-alone or home-alone older person. Right? So later on, I'll leave Mr. Adrian to give you more details, but today his main topic is gerontological issues in Singapore, or aging issues, or issues affecting older people in Singapore. Okay, so I'd like you to take this as an extension of the main lecture just now when I ended off at the geropsychological areas. And of course, I should also remind you that as with all lectures, guest lecture is also content, and so quiz would also cover. So you'll be given the slides of the guest lecture after the guest lecture is over, probably tonight or tomorrow. So join me, round of applause for Mr. Adrian, please.
Right, good afternoon everyone. My name is Adrian. So I come from the conventional gerontology school. Yeah, I did my master's with SUSS, the gerontology program. So a lot of the critical theories that you have been going through, we have done that as well. But for today, we're going to run through the geropsychological issues faced by the seniors in Singapore. So anyone can tell me what is the definition of a senior in Singapore? 65 and above, okay. So that is an official age cutoff, 65 years and above. Right, as Dr. Wayne would have tell you earlier, you are actually 21 years old with 44 years of experience. Okay, but then in the practical, actually in the so-called Silvers community in Singapore, the cutoff is actually at 60 years old. So in a lot of the activities that we do at the active aging centers, we use 60 years old as a cutoff. And incidentally, Singapore turns 60 years old next year. So put that in your mind, right? Singapore is a young country, but it has a super aged status. In fact, we reached that in the year 2017. Mind-blowing, right? Okay, what does that mean? That means that the population 65 years old and above crosses 14% of our population. And that gives you a context when we say that the Singapore population will be aging, and by the year 2030, and that's in 6 years' time, 1 in 4 citizens will be 65 years old and above. That's a scary thought. So we mentioned active aging as well, but personally my favorite take is actually the term successful aging, because when we talk about aging, it's not just when we turn 60 years old or 65 years old, then we start to age. Chronologically, we age every year. My daughter, we talked about birthday cards just now, right? How many year 20 years and below? I assume all are young. Okay, my daughter, when she turned 21 years old, she said, "I'm old." I think you can relate that more than I did. I was like, bro, you are 21 years old and you're old, then who am I? I'm the super dinosaur in the home. Yeah. So when we talk about age, usually I like to use this term successful aging because I feel that aging is definitely inevitable, right? And what we need to do is actually to stay active, both physically, socially, as well as mentally. And that's part of the mental health aspects that we really look into when we talk about gerontology. Well, let's take a bleak look at Singapore's aging population. We are a young society, right? But we are living in a very fast pace. The context is always changing. There's a policy that, okay, we don't really talk about policies when we look into all the gerontology yet. But as you can read in the papers, in all your research, the Singapore policies are also changing in response to that. But there was one policy that has been very, very successful. And that has got nothing to do with aging, actually. Anyone want to have a guess at that? What is the most successful population policy Singapore has? Some clues. We talk about lower birth rates. We talk about the younger generation not being able to cover the loss of the seniors. Right. So that is actually the birth rate policy, the stop at 2. Okay. Because of that policy, our general population actually declined because the births are not able to cover the loss of the seniors. With the boomer generation passing on, the younger generation cannot take over. And that's why we have a lot of other policies that come in that brings in all the migrant workers, blah, 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 but that's out of context of today's lecture. So when we look at Singapore's aging population, it's quite bleak, yeah? Okay, we look at things like depression, look at things like anxiety, stress, cognitive impairments, and even loneliness. So if we look at the research, there's a 2021 study by the IMH, right? Around 1 in 7 seniors aged 60 plus faced depressive symptoms. There's a deterioration in their health. There is a loss of spouse that leads to grief. And of course, there's a loss of independence as well because physically the body cannot adapt. The MOH study in 2020 shows that 1 in 10 seniors has dementia. And mind you, dementia is not an old age disease. Right? Put that in your mind. Alzheimer, maybe, but dementia generally refers to a group of cognitive disease. Who is the youngest person in the world who has dementia? Anyone? Any guess? The youngest person who has dementia. Okay, is actually 19 years old. Okay, this gentleman in China, he was diagnosed with depression, and that was in 2023. So it's recent news. Go back and Google about that. And not a so fun fact is also depression prevalence is actually higher in older women than men in Singapore. Well, I guess that also corresponds to the traditional responsibility of the woman in the traditional family, right? Being the caregiver, being the loss of social roles, and then ultimately the widowhood. Because if you look at the age, Singapore women actually has a longer lifespan than Singapore men. So, okay, I think majority of the class here are female. Congratulations, you will live a long life. And I hope that will be a quality life for you also, right? Because you don't want to live a long life but bounded in bed. You want to live a long life that is filled with quality activities, healthy activities. There's also social isolation and loneliness associated with aging, right? So this NUS study in 2020 found that 34% of seniors actually reported feeling lonely. Okay, the people around them, their friends are all dying or have already passed on. They don't feel like socializing, and they tend to coop themselves up in a flat on their own. And that leads to cognitive decline physically and mentally as well.